Tabang here. Welcome back to Information, the show where we talk about everything that's futuristic. And talking about futuristic, congratulations to Zimbabwe on becoming the 14th country in Africa to get Starlink. Guys, this is massive.
It's Gigantosaurus, whatever you say, Gigantosaurus, Gigantosaurus.
This is huge.
It's a metamorphic, Gigantosaurus. Ginormous.
Now, what exactly is Starlink?
Starlink uses the world's most advanced satellite technology to deliver high-speed, low-latency internet all over the world. Traditional satellite internet services rely on single geostationary satellites that orbit at a far distance, leading to high latency and unreliable connection. By leveraging the world's largest satellite constellation using a low Earth orbit, Starlink can support streaming, online gaming, video calls, and more. When your Starlink kit arrives, it'll include everything you need to connect to the internet. You will need a clear view of the sky in order to stay linked to the satellite network. Starlink can withstand extreme cold, heat, hail, sleet, heavy rain, and gale force winds. Once your Starlink has found a satellite connection, you're ready to connect.
As of recording this video, there are at least 6,000 satellites that are in orbit right now, providing low latency, high bandwidth internet to the world. If you go to Starlink's availability map, you'll see that Zimbabwe joins other countries like Madagascar, Malawi, Kenya, South Sudan, Zambia, and Botswana. But let me show you guys a funny thing. It's actually really weird. If you go to the map, the light blue ones are where the service is available, and the dark blue ones have a date normally on them, or basically details on when Starlink would be joining that country. 2024, Namibia 2024. And the weirdest thing is that South Africa says service date is unknown at this time. Here's the weird thing. Lesotho, right in the middle of South Africa, is getting Starlink in Q3 2024. So it means that chances are, by the time you see this video, Lesotho will have access to Starlink and South Africa will not have it. Go figure. The big African elephant in the room is, why exactly is South Africa lagging behind so much? Why do we not have a date for when Starlink is going to be available in South Africa? Luckily for us, IT Web sat down with the new chair of ICASA, Ntate Mutibi Ramusi, and this is what he had to say.
My question then comes to, Starlink. There's been a lot of noise around it, and merely for the fact that it's made available in other neighboring African nations, but not here in South Africa. Why is that?
Yeah, I think Starlink, like many others, I did indicate in my introduction that the authority will issue licenses. Now, in this country, we have number of types of licenses, but specific to what you're asking me about, we've got a license called the individual ECNS license. It's an electronic communication network. And we've got another one. It's an individual electronic communication service. Now, with those two licenses, it gives you an opportunity and the right to provide countrywide services. Currently, all our mobile operators have similar licenses. So anyone, including the company that you have just mentioned, if they were to approach the authority and say, we've got an appetite to provide services, firstly, they must then conform to say, I've got a license. That's number one. And when we issue those licenses, there were specific conditions as well. There's issues in this country when you talk about black empowerment, and to an extent that there's a 30% BE requirement. It's a policy. So the Department of Communication, Digital Technologies, being the custodian for policy, basically stipulates that anyone who's got an appetite, in this case, if, for example, Starlink was to come directly to the authority tomorrow, as I've indicated, our licensing process is fairly clear, and one will just have to conform to other requirements. But should they decide to come through any other person, those people must still have a license as well. And talking about the new regime of satellites, we've just published now a discussion document, which I'll encourage you to have a look. We're looking at improving our licensing regime relating to satellite. It's a framework, because we're mindful that traditionally, when you look at your ground reception stations, we've been working very closely with our National Space Agency, SANZA, and the military. So the issue of space is not new and foreign in a country. But when you talk about the LEOs, there's a totally different way as well on how to license and to engage this kind of, operations. So we're just making sure that as an authority, we're not found wanting. This is now proactive, so that any other things that are required in the framework for this new way of doing constellation of satellites, we're not seeing that, hey, people have moved, but you're still behind. But I'm glad that, 4 months, I'm there, colleagues, they've already looked at some of these things and we're in motion. But the issue of Starlink or any other at the moment, I haven't seen any formal on my table or ICASA. But yeah, we've just been reading, just like as you're asking me, about Starlink, yeah.
So they haven't formally approached the regulator?
Well, I personally, since I've joined, I haven't seen a document in the chairman's office that says, here's an application, no.
And if they were, you would, like you said?
Well, we'll just have to follow the normal process, as I said, prescribed. Because, the good thing with ICASA, as much as I said earlier on, if you're a dreamer and tomorrow you want to be in science, you do mining underground, and you want Spectrum to do things, just come. Just come and ask. Because, you see, sometimes people have got this perception that there are certain things for other people. That's why earlier on I told you that one of the biggest things that we're going to do, outreach, strengthen that so that we educate people that anything that talks spectrum technology, the authority is there to guide you, because we want to facilitate investment in this country. We don't want to be seen as a showstopper for development.
So there are two ways in which Starlink can come into South Africa with the current regulations. Either by having a BEE partner who gets to keep 30%, and I'm thinking it's not of the whole company, it must be like a locally registered subsidiary of Starlink, or they would need to find an already registered ISP to work through for those services in South Africa. And I think this would be something like what's happening in Zimbabwe with IMC Communications.
And Telecommunications Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe, POTRAZ, has banned the sale and distribution of Starlink kits by unlicensed service providers. This comes as the government moves to regulate the sale of end-user kits from the global satellite-based internet service provider. The ban follows the issuance of a license to Starlink, which has since gone live as Zimbabwe joins a select group of African countries using high-speed, low-cost broadband internet services. In a statement, POTRAZ Director General Dr. Gift Machengete said those who will sell the kit should not only be cleared by his organization, but should be holders of licenses for that purpose. He said the clearance and licensing framework applies to both new and existing internet service providers and network operators. Interesting this. I don't know, the kits, you're not providing a satellite service, are you? That's Starlink, and they have their own license. And you're selling kits. I think the issue for me about people selling kits who are unlicensed is the service delivery, of course, in terms of if something happens to it or it's defective. And also, I suppose, of course, if you want to return it, will you get your money back? Are you covered by any of the consumer protection that you should normally have with a licensed operator? The prices, I think the kit that I'm going to be looking at personally, that is, of course, unless some of the other telecom operators don't come in with their own attractive packages, which is possible, is probably the one which looks around $350 for the kit and then about $50 US per month for unlimited broadband. That's a residential package, fixed at home.
Now, if you were Elon Musk, which option would you go with? Would you go with the BEE route or finding a licensed provider? I'm really interested. So let me know in the comments below. Oh, next time I'm going to be talking about how DSTV stole the internet from South Africa. So you want to subscribe for that. Until next time, Ayoba.
On, for instance, internet availability and access. Yes, Starlink has made an approach to us.
Ja Mornis.